So Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts deserve a ton of credit for the second half.
We stayed together as a team. We did not quit. Nobody gave up. And in competitive sports, that's what it's about. And I'm very proud of that.
Jalen Hurts looked like he was having the worst game of his season. By halftime, the Eagles had negative passing yards, and they were down 26-7 against the Rams. Most quarterbacks would have crumbled under that kind of pressure. But what Hurts did next, that's what made everyone stop and watch. Jalen Hurts had every reason to fold. The Eagles were falling apart in front of a national audience, down 26-7 early in the third quarter against the Rams. The offense looked broken. By halftime, Philadelphia had to manage negative passing yards. The Rams' defense had already sacked Hurts 4 times. Nothing was working. Most quarterbacks would start pressing. Most teams would unravel, but not Jalen Hurts. What happened next wasn't just a comeback. It was a statement. It was the moment Hurts reminded the league that when everything's collapsing, he can still find a way. And that's exactly what he did. Hurts exploded in the second half, going 17 of 24 for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. He added another score on a quarterback sneak early in the game, giving him 4 total touchdowns in one of the most dramatic turnarounds of the season. And it wasn't just the numbers. It was how and when he delivered. The turning point came with a 4th and goal decision late in the third. Hurts dropped back and found Devonta Smith in the end zone for a 4-yard touchdown. It wasn't flashy, but it was clutch. That score brought the Eagles within striking distance, and from that moment on, the Rams started unraveling. The very next drive, Hurts connected with A.J. Brown for a 9-yard touchdown. Then, with the game hanging in the balance, he found Dallas Goedert on a deep shot for 33 yards. Just like that, the Eagles were back in control. But it wasn't just Hurts. The Eagles' defense showed up big. They blocked 2 field goals in the second half, including one that was returned for a touchdown by Jordan Davis on the final play. That sealed the game, a 33-26 win that kept Philadelphia undefeated and stretched Hurts' regular season winning streak to 17 games. This game wasn't just about stats or even the win. It revealed something deeper. It showed how Hurts lead when things go wrong, when the offensive line collapses, when the scoreboard is ugly, when the boos start coming. Some quarterbacks get quiet in those moments. Hurts get sharper. This wasn't the first time Hurts has bailed the Eagles out of a bad spot, but it was one of the clearest examples of his clutch gene. The first half looked like a disaster. Negative passing yards, no rhythm, miscommunications everywhere. Hurts looked frustrated, the sideline tense. He was seen having animated conversations with offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. The frustration was real, but so was the response. The first half was a disaster for the Eagles and their passing game. Jalen Hurts connected on 4 of 8 passes for just 17 yards over the first 2 quarters, but with the Rams' defense sacking him 4 times for a loss of 18 yards, the Eagles went to the locker room for the halftime break with -1 yard in the passing game. The stat sheet tells one part of the story. Hurts ended the game with 260 total passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 137.0. But numbers don't capture the way he took over the second half. They don't show confidence in the huddle, the way he calmed down the offense, the trust he built with his receivers after a disastrous start. That trust showed in the timing of the throws. That 4th down toss to Smith wasn't forced. It was calculated. Hurts knew where Smith would be. He knew the window would be tight, and he delivered. Same with the strike to Goedert. That wasn't just broken coverage. It was a quarterback reading the safety, recognizing the shift, and hitting a spot that only his guy could reach. These are the moments that make Hurts dangerous. He doesn't just run an offense, he controls the rhythm of a game. And when things spiral, he slows everything down. That's rare. That's what makes a great quarterback different from a good one. And the timing couldn't be better. With every win, the pressure builds, the expectations rise, but Hurts keeps showing that the moment never gets too big. He's not just riding momentum, he's building something. That second half performance wasn't just about the comeback. It was about resilience, about knowing that even after the worst half of your career, this game also marked the first time in Hurts' career that he threw for more than 200 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half or overtime. That's not just a random milestone, that's growth. It means he's still evolving, still unlocking parts of his game that weren't there before. It means teams can't just bank on stopping him early, because now, even if you succeed in the first half, you still have to deal with the storm that comes later. There's a reason the Eagles have won 17 straight regular season games with Hurts as their starter. It's not just the talent, it's the mindset, the refusal to panic, the way he lifts the team when they're dragging. Games like this don't just happen. They're earned through preparation, trust, and leadership. And yet, despite all this, Hurts still isn't always talked about in the same breath as some of the other top quarterbacks. He doesn't always make the highlight reels. He doesn't always have the flashiest plays. But what he does have is consistency, grit, the ability to take a broken game and turn it into a win. Fans and analysts can argue about mechanics, arm strength, or passing schemes. But what you can't measure is what Hurts showed in that second half against the Rams. You can't quantify leadership. You can't graph our hearts. You can't coach the ability to take hits, shake off doubt, and step back onto the field like you never left. Hurts showed all of that and more, and the league is starting to take notice. Every week he proves that last season wasn't a fluke, that this team isn't just talented, they're led by someone who refuses to lose. And in the NFL, that makes all the difference. What comes next for Hurts and the Eagles is anybody's guess. But one thing is clear. If you're down late and need someone to bring you back, there are a few players you'd trust more. Not because he's perfect, but because he never stops believing the game is winnable, even when the numbers say otherwise. That mindset is infectious. It spreads to the huddle, to the sideline, to the fans. You can feel it in games like this. When Hurts is locked in, the Eagles believe, and when they believe, they're dangerous. So while the stats will show another win, another great performance, what happened against the Rams meant more. It was a reminder, a warning, a signal to the rest of the league. You can sack him, pressure him, frustrate him, but until the final whistle, he's not done. And as long as Jalen Hurts is on the field, neither are the Eagles.
Having said that, Dylan Gabriel, respectfully, it was stupid. A very dumb comment to make. First of all, let me tell you something right now.
Stephen A. Smith heard what Dylan Gabriel said about Shedeur Sanders, and he wasn't having it. One comment was all it took for Stephen A. to go off. What did Gabriel say? And why did it make Stephen A. so angry? When you join the NFL as a rookie quarterback, everything you do and say gets a lot of attention. And when two rookies are competing for the same spot, that attention gets even more intense. That's the situation Dylan Gabriel was in during this preseason with the Cleveland Browns. He made a comment that got people talking. There are entertainers and there are competitors. That one sentence sparked rumors, criticism, and a lot of debate. Some thought it was just a simple comment, but others believed it showed something deeper about how he sees the game and maybe even his teammates. What followed was a lesson in how quickly things can get out of control when words are misunderstood, and how public image matters just as much as performance in the NFL.
But for me, I've explained it. Entertainers are you all, competitor. That's what I am and all my teammates, and we both have jobs to do.
Gabriel's quote came during a preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles. After one of his early appearances, he spoke from the sideline. There's entertainers and there are competitors, and I totally understand that. But my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing. Many took notice because he followed that by clarifying in his post-game presser that he wasn't aiming at a teammate, but rather speaking to the media. He said he saw media members as entertainers and that he wanted to be viewed as a competitor. He insisted he respects all involved and that this line of distinction wasn't new to him.
Understand that, and my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
So why did that one sentence stir so much reaction? First, it's because Gabriel is one of several quarterbacks in a tight competition within the Browns organization. Alongside him are Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Shedeur Sanders, another rookie who's drawn considerable attention in part because of his pedigree and media spotlight. Second, the NFL and the Browns both operate in a media environment where narrative matters. Any suggestion that someone else is more entertainer than competitor can be read as shade, whether intended or not. With Sanders already getting attention for his college success, his father being Deion Sanders, and his social media presence, Gabriel's comment immediately set off speculation. Third, performance matters. Gabriel had a decent showing in that game. He completed 13 of 18 passes for 143 yards, though he also had turnovers, including an interception and a lost fumble that left room for critique. Those moments become part of the context in which comments like his are judged. Enter Stephen A. Smith. On First Take, he addressed Gabriel's quote directly. He said that yes, he believed Gabriel when he said he meant the media, not Sanders, but that the quote was still stupid, very dumb, even idiotic. Smith's concern was that Gabriel had unnecessarily elevated scrutiny. When you say something that can be interpreted as critical of the media or of how things are covered, you invite more eyes and more critique.
Having said that, Dylan Gabriel, respectfully, it was stupid. A very dumb comment.
Smith reminded everyone that competition exists everywhere in media, business, and sports. That's what drives greatness. Gabriel's comment, even if aimed at the media, opened him up to judgment. If he underperforms, those words will come back to haunt him, especially with Sanders already proving himself. To his credit, Gabriel clarified he meant the media, not teammates. Meanwhile, Sanders stayed calm and didn't feed into the drama. He made it clear he didn't see Gabriel's comment as personally directed at him. In interviews, he said it doesn't change the way he works and he's focused on performance. He expressed confidence that his path in the NFL is about being prepared, staying humble, and handling the external noise with discipline. From the team perspective, there is no confirmed report of tension in the locker room. Observers noted that sometimes people in high competition scenarios read between the lines, especially when narrative is already being written by the media. But official quotes from Sanders and Gabriel suggest they are trying to stay professional despite public interpretation. This moment is bigger than one quote. In today's NFL, everything a rookie quarterback says gets picked apart. Gabriel's entertainers versus competitors line sounded like he was drawing a line between style and substance, even if he didn't mean to. That kind of message shapes how people see you, fast.
It's just part of it. You know, there's entertainers and there's competitors. And I totally understand that. And my job is to compete. And that's what I'm focused on doing.
Also, when you make public statements, viewers almost always assume there's a target. When two people are fighting for the same job, people assume the shot is at the other. For Gabriel, that means his words were going to be weighed not just against what he meant, but what others thought he meant. And that is where Smith's criticism hits hardest. Not that Gabriel was lying, but that he should have known how powerful the echo of his words could be. Gabriel's comment opened the door for media and fan criticism. Stephen A. Smith calling it stupid locked it into his public image. If Gabriel struggles on the field, that quote could haunt him. With Sanders already ahead in the spotlight, Gabriel must perform and manage how he's perceived because, in the NFL, every word is part of the show. Although there is no reliable reporting of internal conflict, in any competition, there is risk. If teammates or others interpret someone's comments as divisive, it can affect trust, even if unintentionally. Contracts, endorsements, and public image all hinge on how you are viewed by media, fans, and front office. A rookie who develops a reputation for being combative or for speaking in ways that seem passive-aggressive has to manage whether that becomes more visible than his play on the field. It's not too late for Gabriel or any young player in a similar spot to manage things better. The first step is being explicit about meaning when saying something that could be read multiple ways. If you mean the media, say so immediately, with respect. Say something like, "I respect what you do, but here's where I think my role is." In interviews, focus on teamwork, preparation, and shared goals. Avoid divisive language, it can backfire. When criticized, respond calmly and clearly like Gabriel and Sanders did. In the end, your play matters most. Perform well, and people forget the noise. Struggle, and every word gets replayed. This is also a case study in what happens when a prominent media figure weighs in. Stephen A. Smith has reached an authority. When he says something is stupid or very dumb, many listeners take it as permission to repeat that criticism, amplify it, or assume that the damage is real. That kind of feedback loop can shape public perceptions very quickly. Smith emphasized that even if Gabriel's intended target was the media, the quote opened a door. Stephen A. Smith warned that if you perform poorly, people won't just remember the game, they'll remember what you said, especially if it sounds arrogant. In today's NFL, the media shapes the story, and your words can define your image. Dylan Gabriel's comment wasn't just a mistake, it was a reminder that how you speak matters as much as how you play. He tried to explain himself, and Sanders stayed focused, But that one quote still left a lasting impact. In the NFL, being a quarterback is about more than just stats. It's also about respect, trust, and how you handle attention. For Dillon Gabriel, this moment was a big risk. For Stephen A. Smith, it showed how powerful words can be. If Gabriel wants to control his story now, he'll need to play well, speak clearly, and stay consistent, because once something is said in public, it sticks.
Shedeur Sanders didn't want to go to the Baltimore Ravens because the Baltimore Ravens had a black quarterback. Somebody hear that? Like, what? Who the hell does this kid think he is?
Yeah.
No. It should have been.
Cam Newton just delivered a shocking blow against Shedeur Sanders. The former MVP couldn't believe Sanders turned down a chance to join the Baltimore Ravens, all because he didn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson. Did Shedeur's bold choice just ruin his future before it even began? The NFL is all about big decisions. Draft picks, contracts, and the quick choices players make on the field can shape entire careers. But sometimes one decision sparks a much bigger storm. That's what happened when reports came out that Shedeur Sanders, the young quarterback and son of legend Deion Sanders, turned down a chance to play for the Baltimore Ravens. The reason? He didn't want to sit on the bench behind Lamar Jackson.
141st overall selection, but when he found out, he got word back to the Ravens that he preferred not to go to a place where he would be competing and backing up.
The news spread fast. Analysts gave their opinions, fans argued online, and then a powerful voice stepped in. Former NFL MVP Cam Newton, a quarterback who's lived through the highs and lows of the game, spoke out. His reaction turned the story into a major headline. To understand why this matters, let's rewind. In the build-up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Shedeur Sanders was one of the most talked-about prospects. Not only was he the son of Deion Sanders, one of the greatest cornerbacks in league history, but he also carried with him the spotlight of playing at Colorado under his father's coaching. His arm strength, accuracy, and poise made scouts pay attention. Yet despite his potential, there were questions. Was his success at Colorado a product of his father's system, or could he translate his talent to the NFL level? Would teams trust him as a franchise quarterback immediately, or would he need time to develop? When draft day came, the big names went off the board early. Sanders slid lower than many expected. That's where the Baltimore Ravens appeared ready to step in. According to NFL insider Adam Schefter, the Ravens were considering drafting Sanders in the 5th round. Baltimore saw value in having a young quarterback who could learn behind Lamar Jackson, their superstar and the face of the franchise. But then came the twist. Schefter reported that Sanders and his camp made it clear he did not want to be drafted by Baltimore if it meant sitting behind Lamar Jackson. In the NFL, the label of backup quarterback is complicated. Some embrace it as an opportunity to learn and bide their time. Others see it as a cage, a place where careers stall. Sanders' camp apparently believed the latter. By refusing Baltimore, Sanders signaled he wanted a clearer path to the starting role. In the end, he landed with the Cleveland Browns. But Cleveland was no paradise. Veteran Joe Flacco was still there. Rookie Dillon Gabriel joined the roster. Sanders found himself buried on the depth chart, the very situation he seemed to be avoiding. It was at this point that Cam Newton weighed in. Cam Newton is no stranger to quarterback controversy. A former Heisman winner, a #1 overall pick, and an NFL MVP, he experienced both superstardom and the brutal reality of losing a starting job. When he speaks on the life of a quarterback, people listen. Newton criticized Sanders' refusal to join the Ravens. To Newton, the chance to sit behind Lamar Jackson was not a punishment, but a blessing. He pointed out that Jackson represents everything a young quarterback should want to learn from. He is not just one of the most electrifying players in the league, but also a leader who has managed to avoid off-field drama, build trust within his team, and stay consistent despite immense pressure.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Newton went further. He suggested that Sanders, given his own life experiences, might have been able to relate to Jackson on a personal level. Watching how Jackson handles fame, expectations, and responsibility could have shaped Sanders into a stronger professional. For Newton, turning down Baltimore was not just a missed opportunity. It was a mistake that could alter the trajectory of Sanders' career. Baltimore was an ideal landing spot for Sheeter Sanders on paper. Lamar Jackson's status as the unquestioned starter meant there was no rush. Sanders could have developed behind the scenes, learning the speed of the NFL without the pressure of being thrown into the fire.